Hello and welcome to Note to File, a clinical research podcast.
A collection of interviews, candid commentary, and general nonsense for the clinical research community.
Check us out at notetofilepodcast.com.
And now, without further ado, on to the show.
All right, guys, welcome to another Note to File. My very serviceable co-host, Denali.
Good morning. Afternoon. It's afternoon now, isn't it?
Probably in some places and not in others, and that's how time zones work.
Not for long though.
That's true. Did they just pass that, or just still considering
they've been trying since the 70s. It'll be sunrise in Wisconsin at 10 a.m. You know,
I'm not mad at that.
That's good.
Well, I want to wake up 10 a.m.
So Veeva's check cleared finally. So I'm outnumbered on Note to File. We have our guest today, Anthony Corso. Anthony, how's it going, man?
It's going good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah,
I gotta ask about that song. Did you guys purposely pick a really sad song from Milk Hotel?
I listen to a lot of really sad songs, I realize, which is definitely a way to get people like totally pumped to listen to a podcast. So
yeah. Is it the same song every time? I always watch the shorts.
No, it's a different song every time.
Okay. So we did the really roller coaster into the ocean for me.
Exactly.
Actually,
right on.
How do you pick these songs, Brad? Because this is like a Brad. You've been doing this since you started the podcast, where you like play songs. How do you pick songs? Is it just like let your heart guide you, or what?
Yes, essentially. I just close my eyes and whatever I hear becomes the song that's going to be played today. Honestly, that's the only reason I still do this podcast, is so that I can play a song at the beginning. That's the real fun.
Just gaslighting people into your music taste.
That's exactly what I'm doing. It's like my own small act of propaganda to get into people's brains slowly but surely.
We'll do it.
Today is July 16th. Today is Artificial Intelligence Appreciation Day.
Yeah, get out. Not about it.
Already?
I mean, already. According to this completely unverified website that I use to tell me what day it is. So take that for what it's worth. It's also National Corn Fritters Day for some reason.
Oh,
yeah, I agree.
I don't know if I've ever had a corn fritter.
I don't know that I want to. I like corn and I like fritters, but some things aren't meant to be together.
I don't even like corn that much.
Yeah, corn fritters are not. No, get them out of here. I guess I'm the closest to the South out of you guys, but I still feel like it's a bullshit fritter. Get it out of here.
Cornbread, fine.
Yeah, I could. Well, you like sweet cornbread or not
spicy?
Sweet? Okay,
really?
Like, a little jalapeno on there.
Yeah.
I've gotten into hot debates whether cornbread should be sweet or not.
Yes, the answer is yes.
I agree. I tend to agree. And it is also Guinea Pig Appreciation Day. My daughter's probably single-handedly murdered, half a dozen guinea pigs. Accidentally, of course, but
I was gonna say
she's like the Pol Pot of guinea pigs.
I feel like the only stories I know about guinea pigs that I remember are like horrific death stories or them eating babies.
Well, I mean, they don't do anything, so pretty limited on what kind of stories you're going to get out of guinea pigs. They're not going to save the day.
Maybe, although isn't there I don't know, people eat them too, right? Like somewhere in
it's like a South America.
South America, they're wild. They survive survive. They procreate outside of their survivability.
I feel like there's always that weird thing, like when you travel to different places, and then I've realized the U.S. one is squirrels, where I was talking to someone whose wife is from the EU, and they came over to visit family here in the U.S. and it was takes pictures of all of the squirrels that she sees because she gets super excited. She's like, "Oh my god, it's a squirrel!" Or when you go to UK and you see wild hedgehogs, and you're like, "This is a thing."
There's wild hedgehogs in the UK?
Yes, just like there's wild guinea pigs in South America, where it's that weird, you assume it's normal, and then everyone else gets super excited about it.
Okay, well, luckily we aren't eating a whole lot of squirrels around here. Although I think when I was a kid, I'm pretty sure my poor mom, I went out into the woods and shot a bunch of squirrels, and I was like, we're gonna eat these. And she humored me, and we never did that ever again.
So I have some family up in northern Wisconsin, and they absolutely eat squirrel.
Okay. Well, maybe it can be prepared well.
In a crock pot.
That's one way to do
With
it.
cheese.
With cheese, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, let's jump in. I mean, the way we start the show. Anthony, tell us a bit about your background, kind of what brings you into the clinical trial space, and a little bit about what you're doing now.
Yeah, that's a different path. When I got out of the military, I had aspirations to go into medicine, and then I took chemistry 1 and realized that was not for me. So I got a business degree. But I was in college, got a nice offer to work with Eli Lilly as a drug rep. That was a fun couple of years. And since then, I've kind of stayed healthcare adjacent. Wanted to move back to Wisconsin to be close to family from North Carolina. Took a job with Epic, the EHR company. Spent shy of 5 years there, and kind of fell into the regulatory aspect of EHRs, right? So all the fun stuff you see with like quality measures and everything like that, and how it affects the implementations. Been at Veeva for a little over a year now, where I am responsible for our public policy posture, right? So responsible for ideas and talking to regulators, legislators, the industry, sites, everybody, right, about things that we believe with checking with people. That's the important part. You got to make sure it's just not in a silo, because I don't always have the best ideas. But things that will further clinical research, make it better, right, here in the States and globally, and advocating for those. Because there's not a lot of legislation or regulation on like trials specifically, which is where I focus on the state level, that equates to like DC once a month usually or so. Love DC, would never live there. But it is an awesome place to visit. So I'm in Madison, Wisconsin. As you stated, you are outnumbered now. Denali and I are both at the Veeva Madison office. So it's a direct flight, believe it or not, because if you're in a capital, the people who represented us in DC, right, they need a direct flight. So if you're ever flying anywhere, DC is an easy place to get a direct flight to. So it's nice.
So what does that look like? I mean, in my mind, I'm imagining that you are playing golf and bribing government officials, which I assume is not
I
actually
wish.
true. But
No, I wish. It's kind of like when I became a drug rep, I got into it after they made it not cool.
right.
Like you couldn't even give a pen away because it was a transfer of value. Yeah. My mom worked in a hospital growing up, and drug reps were really cool, right? And they always had free stuff. By the time I was doing it, you were like bringing Chick-fil-A to people and couldn't even hand them a pen. So I'm sure there are still people smoking cigars in back rooms, figuring out legislation and stuff, possibly playing golf. I am not one of them, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it. So, what does it look like? The most basic part is like the request for information or public comments, right? And I think it's worth saying that for better or for worse, we are in like a renaissance of clinical research right now. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. We have a Republican administration who wants to study psychedelics for mental health on veterans, right? We're good guinea pigs for that. They're trying to like make food healthier, and they're really focused on clinical research. So, the Senate Finance Committee will put out, a request for information. How do we lower the price of prescription drugs? Or the FDA has a few RFIs right now out for public comments. So we spend a lot of time answering those. Technically, they're legally required to read every comment. Use that for what you will.
I will.
A Nook file could really put some public comments out there.
Yeah, and people do. You can read them all, right? You can put them private if you want, but they're supposed to take that all into consideration. So
Is there any different weighting? You know what I'm saying? Like if like someone like my dumb ass goes there as an independent citizen, puts a bunch of comments in, versus like a corporation that has influence and education and stature. Is like, are those taken differently, or is that the same?
I'd imagine so. I don't have anything like having never reviewed them,
Yeah.
right? I know Jackie, my partner who was at NIH, like she's reviewed those before. She'd probably be able to speak to that. But I think it's like anything else. If you don't have any standing and you're just screaming into the void, people are less liable to listen, right? Or
Yeah.
if you're trying to use it to promote a product. So when we comment, our goal is to never make it a marketing thing.
Is that common? Like, do you see other company comments? Is that a common stance, or is that pretty unique to?
It's like the etiquette,
Okay.
you know, right. No elbows on the table, but people still do it. And it's, you know, kind of like guerrilla marketing if people are reading through them too in a interesting way.
Well, so speaking of marketing, I want to ask about one of the sort of newer things that I've been reading about, and that's the whole real-time clinical trials. I don't know what you want to call it, movement.
Initiative.
Sure. Initiative's a very generous thing to call it.
Yeah.
This is something that, I mean, again, as somebody who works at the site level, it struck me as not specifically that useful necessarily, at least still not to sites. But no, it is something too that's being is up for public comments too. Is that right?
Yeah, that wrapped June 30th. They actually extended it. So they announced it and you had like 2 weeks. They did a webinar and kind of broke down the proof of concept they did with Paradigm. I think Penn was one of the like proof of concepts. And they did a webinar, extended it. And since that, I'm checking notes over here, it's FDA commissioner, the chief AI officer, chief medical officer, and the CIO have all departed. Everybody who was on that webinar is no longer at FDA. I think daily somebody's like, hey, what are we doing about real-time clinical trials? And it's like, I don't know. Because the whole point of the comment was to design the pilot. And they haven't said the words since that webinar. And then Trialblazer was born, which Google every time is like, did you mean Trailblazer?
I've been saying Trailblazer the whole time like an idiot. I missed the most obvious play on words you could possibly make. So
it took me a minute. But there was an opportunity to mention it or at least keep it going, and they didn't. So I don't know if it went with that stake of FDA leadership.
Yeah, but I mean, it seems like it fizzled with that exit.
I was going to say, even to go like beyond that, like, was that something, at least in your experience, like, is that something that there have been calls for? Like, I feel like I had never heard anyone mention like, this is what we need to happen. And all of a sudden I'm like, what the fuck is this press conference? It's, you know, people standing up talking about how amazing this is. But I'm like, this is the first time I've even been hearing it as a concept. It just seemed strange and kind of out of the blue. And then a company who I've never heard of hardly, or I have heard of, I have no idea what the fuck they do, somehow landed this amazing, you know, pilot. It all seemed very bizarre to me. I guess, were there like mumblings about this beforehand that you're aware of?
There was mumblings. I think everybody's trying to figure out how to speed it up, right? So the what they were doing was, so site put it in the EDC, whatever, right? And it goes. And then there was like a near real-time connection to like an API at the FDA that was sending safety metrics, non-demographic, de-identified, just like safety signals. The only problem is like to call it real-time. I mean, Brad, how long does it take the CRC to enter it in a given day?
I mean,
data.
It can take up to 3 to 5 days, especially depending on our contract with the sponsor. We may have a 5-day period before we can have to enter some of that data.
So call it 3 days. Let's be generous, right? Gets entered. No, and I don't want to speak for the sponsors, but I'm not letting my safety data go to the FDA without me looking through it and trying to catch something first, right? Like, they're the clinical fiduciary. it's not a good look if the FDA says, hey, this isn't safe and you missed it, because it was like, that's,
Well, and
so to call it real time is a little disingenuous.
well,
Can't imagine the sponsor wants that either. the drug, the pharma company to be like, oh shit, now my like safety stuff that I haven't seen, I haven't gotten hands on or been able to think about is now out in the ether saying that this isn't safe potentially.
well, I also think it misses, like, again, how this actually happens on the ground. So if I have an SAE I become aware of, I do have to report that in a 24-hour period as the site. So great, I report it. But at that point, I often know almost nothing about what happened. So it can take weeks of getting records, culling through them, determining, severity and causality and all of these things before you can actually get a picture of what's going on. So, if I have to report somebody died, but I don't know for 2 weeks that it was a car accident, like, is that not going to make, that's going to give you a horrible impression of the data. You're going to get an incomplete picture.
It's not contextualized, right? Like, it's
Correct,
just
yeah.
data, which is a completely different problem. When I was a rep, you'd be talking to a provider and they'd be like, yeah, the patient said, they did their shot, got dizzy and like bumped their head. And you're like, oh, I have to go report that now. Which is the right thing to do, but it had nothing to do with the medicine, right? Like, they were just like first time giving themselves a shot.
Oh yeah, no, we are reporting, runny noses and scratched knees at site level,
Yep. Yeah. So you need the context. I think, they laid out, there was a image and it was like faster INDs, which we're going through that RFI right now. I think it's due this Friday, the expedited IND, right? And then it was real-time trials with this concept of like continuous trials, which bleeds into the one late phase trial. So, hey, if you do one really, really good phase 3 trial, you don't need 2. You just need 1. And we were talking about this a little before we started. The only problem with that is like, I've never designed a trial, but if I did, I would want to do one, right? So your inclusion and exclusion criteria is going to get even narrower. The protocol is going to get more complex because you need to have that evidence. And then who does that get sent to? Well, you,
right,
and patients.
Yeah.
So maybe it was 1 visit a week and now it's 2, and you have the schedule of events and this like massive protocol. So it could, in theory, speed it up, but it's going to add complexity.
I was going to say, you're kind of comes out in the wash if you have to make your trial so complex it takes twice as long than you could have run 2 trials in that time period.
You think though it's going to happen is they're going to it's going to be that one trial, but it's going to be under name one trial. It's going to be ostensibly the same thing, the same amount of work, the same amount of things they need to have done that they're going to make into the one trial because they don't want to take the risk of having a shoddy designed trial and failing and then having that trial market. So they're going to make it more complex, and it's just going to be, instead of being one trial that's 12 months, it's going to be one and then another trial that's 12 months. It's going to be one trial that's 24 months.
Well,
the upside, right? You only have to get one trial approved, so that like there is speed. There's positives to all of these, right? But I think it's the forest for the trees situation.
Yeah,
like we're doing a lot that potentially could help, especially on like the development side, faster getting to trial. On the submission side, like that's going to be better. But I think what everybody's kind of missed is like, what's the longest part of getting a drug to market? Well, the trial. It's also the most expensive if you take like post approval marketing out.
Sure.
So it's the longest and most expensive part, but we're not doing anything to like make our CRCs and PI and patients' lives easier.
And potentially making them worse, if anything.
It seems that way.
Yeah.
In practice we'll see, but it feels that way, right?
Well, and I guess part of that, there's 2 questions I have that regard that. So one is like, they'll put this out there, but it doesn't mean that sponsors have to adopt this approach, presumably. Like they could still do their 2 trials.
Yeah, definitely.
And
so it's going to be like all the other FDA guidance.
Well, and that's my point. Like we've seen a lot of FDA guidance that it hasn't been adopted for the 15 years that it's been out there. And then you've got the question of trust, right? I mean, haven't we already seen some examples of drug companies following, the guidance of the administration only to then be denied after the fact and be like, haha, never mind, just kidding. Actually, we don't like it. We don't like that you did this. Resubmit or rerun a trial, etc.
And that's the beautiful part about guidance, right? Like anybody can interpret it, and then depending who you get that day may have a different interpretation. Yeah, it's like the fair. I know you love this one, the fair market value guidance, right? Of like what that is, and nobody can speak to it, and nobody wants to run afoul of the safe harbor laws and like anti-kickback, which there is an RFI out for.
I was going to say that's also included in it as well, I thought.
Yeah,
that one's actually good, right? That one's actually
I think so.
Yeah, doesn't really seem to have any negative downstream effects as far as I can tell.
I think what they're asking, the complicated part, right, is like, how do we fairly compensate participants in sites? And it's like, well, do you do it by time? Like we have a mileage, right? So we could do everybody mileage. Cool. That's easy. It's a national thing. You can't use like CPT codes, right? Because that's for the doctor's time and expertise. That doesn't really translate to getting a lumbar puncture versus an x-ray. Like the lumbar puncture doesn't take as long as an x-ray, but it's going to be worse. Yeah, it's going to suck a little more. So how do you do it? You just do like federal minimum wage for the time? But then who's reviewing that? CRC?
Yeah, you also end up with, I think, and we see this already at the site level, like you end up with the selection bias of people who are going to be in trials, because I have insurance and I can go to work and make whatever, hundreds of dollars an hour, whatever. There's a big spectrum.
Yeah.
And so you're going to end up with people of a lower, socioeconomic status, which
already happens.
I was going to say that's already the case, like probably more so than a lot of sites are willing to admit. Yeah.
Right. If you have insurance, you're not going to necessarily like give me the treatment that we know works. I mean, like there's like obviously like oncology, some of those like ones that don't have great standard of care is going to be a different scenario. But like if I have dermatitis and I have insurance, I'm going to go to the doctor and give me the thing that we know works.
Give me Dupixent. I'm going to be fine. It's cheap now. Right. I don't need to go through. I don't need to come in every week and get a shot and get my blood taken and do all these other things.
Right. So you're already getting
a lot of work. Yeah. It's hard to schedule a regular doctor's appointment. You're like, I got to miss work. I got to drive. Like, and then you're going to do a trial. Like it is a lot of work.
Which is why we should pay people fairly.
Yeah, you should. Yes. And then, I think you guys have talked about this before, like the idea that like, if you get a stipend, it counts as taxable income, and that bracket's changed.
There is that legislation that's in place.
It's sitting in this. It's sitting in this Congress. Yeah, it needs a little work right now. It says for like a life-threatening medical condition, which, I mean, we could argue about that all day, right? Like, what medical condition isn't life-threatening?
Fair.
I get a paper cut, it gets infected. That could be life-threatening.
Yeah, I mean, asthma, diabetes, right? Like you can extract. So that's tough, but then the one big beautiful bill or one big ugly bill, depending on what side, if you're watching a hearing, that raised the level to like $2,000 a year, I think. I'm not a tax expert, but like if you pass that, right, say up north Wisconsin, Denali, you were talking about it, you got to drive to UW for an oncology trial. It could be 2-3 hours. You're missing work, you need childcare, gas. So they say, hey, we're going to kick you $1,000 a month as a stipend. It's a big oncology study. 1,000 probably seems high, Brad, maybe?
A little high, but...
Yeah. But, for ease of it, numbers. And then if you are, right, of a lower socioeconomic background or, in poverty, and you have women, infant and children, right, WIC, food stamps, whatever have you. Well, that's a 1099.
Yep.
And that could push you over, and now you can lose access to your benefits.
I've seen it happen. I've had patients withdraw once they get to that $600 mark because they're going to lose other, benefits that they have. So yeah, I mean, it's real. It's a real problem.
Yeah, I know we can't say guinea pigs, but let's, for the sake of casualness, say you're a guinea pig for an oncology drug, right?
It is National Guinea Pig Day.
It is National Guinea Pig Day. So let's say you grow a third arm, right? for $1,000 stipend a month, and then you lose your benefits, and that oncology trial goes big, right? You get a blockbuster drug. So you got penalized for advancing medicine for the entire world. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely you know, a lot of weird disparity. I mean, all along the spectrum, you know, of everybody involved. I don't disagree. I don't know how we'll ever actually balance that. I doubt we ever will, but it's a problem. It's a problem. What's the most like exciting thing in the Trailblazer stuff, like as far as you're concerned?
I took all the notes because of everything's going on. I
I was
wanted
gonna
to
say,
kind of
like,
think through this. Yeah, there's so much. Truly, right? A renaissance. I know a lot of folks are upset or, you know, have ideas about policy versus politics and stuff. But like, can you guys remember a time there was this much going on in DC for clinical research?
Yeah, no, it does seem like a lot.
You know, none of it may happen. That's the way it works. But I'll take that they're talking about it. So what you have FDA doing the IND stuff, that seems cool. What is it? The QIRs or IQRs? They're trying to add like oh man, another layer,
okay.
like pre-approval. It'd be like a committee thing, and I'm forgetting the acronym off the top of my head. Um, I don't do IND submissions, but it just seems like another step.
Well, I mean, even IND submissions, to my understanding, I mean, we don't do them at the site level. I at least have some very vague and probably not entirely correct information about it. But like IND submissions already have to be responded to in a somewhat limited amount of time, right? Like is it a 90-day turnaround?
I
that
think
I think
so. I mean, that's kind of the whole PDUFA point, right? We pay you, you do the work. Like, that's the
right.
whole fee schedule, is like, that's why we pay you to finance this. Yeah.
And to your point, though, I mean, like, look, yeah, that may be taking up some time, but ultimately, that's not where I see the biggest bottlenecks in clinical trials. It's not in the administrative front end, and I don't know how much of that too is trying to address the whole "we don't want you. Please don't go to China where it's cheaper and faster. Please do it here."
Yeah. QRI, Qualified Research Institution, like the idea of these networks that can produce
Oh,
faster INDs, right? But
Hmm.
I just don't know how that works. Are they just going to allow it? QRI says, yeah, go ahead. We're good. The FDA is not going to touch that. I
I
think they're still going to want to look
almost,
at it.
yeah, for
yeah,
sure. You would think.
yeah. It seems like putting another layer into be like, oh, we could do this. More guidance. This is a way we could do it. But the industry as a whole is so risk adverse. No one's going to be willing to be like, yeah, okay, I'm just going to run with it, especially given we talked about earlier, like the lack of trust that we've already seen where the FDA has said something, pharma companies have tried to submit and they've been rejected already. Like we're already seeing that happening. So doing more of this, like I have a hard time believing people are going to jump to be like the guinea pigs here.
Yeah, everybody always kind of like looks down their nose like pharma's really risk adverse. And it's like, well, of course they are, right? Like the time and money. Like if a drug doesn't get approved, people lose their jobs, right? Like
I mean, I've worked on
it's,
trials that then when they didn't succeed, that company does not exist anymore. That was it.
The issue
yeah,
being though is that they're risk adverse makes total sense, but they're the ones who ultimately hold the keys in adopting a lot of the innovation. So we're in kind of a catch 22 now because sites can't be the ones who are like, I'm going to do this innovative new thing because we're going to do direct data entry into the EDC. Well, how many protocols are saying you can do direct data entry? None, because no, the pharma company has to be the one to dictate it. So I understand why they're risk adverse, but we're going to be stuck in this cycle of zero innovation unless something changes.
yeah. And like the FDA didn't get sued for Oxycontin, right? Like there's also somebody they're
Yeah.
left
Mhm.
holding the bag at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at all the biggest like lawsuits in American history, it's all pharmaceutical lawsuits, you know.
Yeah.
So risk adverse makes sense. We talked about the one trial. There's something about master protocols. I haven't gotten into that yet. I don't honestly know what that means off the top of my head. Like
Well, I mean,
a master protocol sounds really cool.
yeah, but I also feel like to some degree, the like copying and recopying of protocols has led to a lot of the problems that we have now with protocol design. So I'm curious, like what they mean by master protocol in that regard, because I think that's honestly, again, from what I hear from the people who design protocols or have some hand in it, a lot of the stuff that sucks is left over from previous trials
That
because
makes
they're just
sense.
sort of using the same template. And again, same thing, risk averse. Hey, it worked last time. We got across the finish line. So let's not make too many changes here.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. What is NIH has AI, right? Everybody's talking about it. Human cell based models sounds cool. Real world data, super cool. It's out there, right? I think you still have to do the trial even with real world data. I'm a glass half empty guy on real world data, which isn't a very popular opinion.
No,
But
I mean,
people are really different. Like,
I don't know that I've ever, I'll be honest, like I still struggle, especially when you throw in real world evidence versus real world data. Obviously, I still think the randomized clinical trial is still the gold standard when it comes to proving something fucking works and is safe and effective.
Well,
I'm kind of with you, I think.
so much of our historical data has holes, and we know that. Like, I'll get on my soapbox again. Like, women weren't included in clinical trials until 93. What historical data are we using? Because if we're using all of this other data, you're not having representative data of the current populations because we had biases in what data we were collecting and who we were collecting it from.
Well, dude, we go
Across the
through medical records every day, and they are incomplete. They're just dead wrong. They are.
Yep.
It's not a good data source. I mean, it's a great billing source, but it's not a good.
it's built
source
for
your action.
billing.
It is, yeah.
You know, like it is built to bill.
Yeah.
That's what private insurance is. I mean, EHRs are built around it, right? Like, yeah, they're good and the data flows and like, man, it's cool that you can be on vacation in Florida and get bit by a shark and your UW Madison records just show up in the ER. That's cool. But it is like you look at the burnout around EHRs, right? Because there is so much regulation and the clicks and the billing. Like, you know, you're going to submit a claim and XYZ insurer is going to be like, yeah, we don't think so. And you have to like document. So there's a lot of clinician burnout there, right? So it's unstructured data and notes. Like there's a lot out there. I don't know how real world data fills the gap. It's good if you're looking for like, hey, we think it might do this, right?
Sure.
Right. Well, it's like directionally, like maybe this is an idea we should dig further into.
Yeah.
That makes sense, but not to prove it. I don't know, at least not in my mind.
The other one from NIH was practical clinical trial tools.
Okay.
I mean,
What would that?
I don't know what that is.
I don't know, guys. I don't know.
Looking for those.
Yeah, definitely. CRISPR was on there, and then NCI, which is like National Cancer Institute, right? That NIH is kind of like the VA. There's all the different for education, activation, and enrollment. And then the big one that I want to talk to you guys about was the Office of the National Coordinator one, right? ONC, who regulates like information blocking and EHRs. So one of their proposals was to make it part of a certification, possibly. They're going to look at it for an API to clinicaltrials.gov.
What does that mean? Tell me more. Like, what are they looking at?
So here's my thing. You look at the EHR companies, they're big companies, right? If there was a business, like a need to be met there, they would have already done it. Veeva is a good example, and I won't do the marketing thing, right? But we have the ctv.veeva.com where we've like made clinicaltrials.gov a little more user friendly. But a lot of people have done that, right?
Yeah.
It's not so much like connecting is the problem. It's that the data is unstructured, right? Even though for like most, like 80% of inclusion and exclusion criteria, there is structured data. Use an ICD-10 range.
Right.
Or, you know, or a SNOMED code, RX norm, a LOINC code. All of these exist, but we still put it in long form text that like people who work in the industry can't understand. That's a problem. And then I recently learned, I loved it. Evidently, the data in there is bad.
Well,
Anyone can put data in there.
Yeah.
Get anyone. It's like public comments.
I mean, I literally just made a study in clinicaltrials.gov that was completely made up nonsense, and it was approved and published and is still on there on clinicaltrials.gov.
And then if you do an amendment and it changes, not nobody. That's not fair, right? People don't go back and update clinicaltrials.gov. So it's like out of date or it's incorrect in how it's written. So it doesn't reflect the protocol.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to pull unstructured data down. I'm sure we'll AI it into structured data. That's fine. That seems like a good use for AI. And then it's going to be wrong. And then the biggest problem with this and something we're looking at advocating for and we've added to our list is like, who's doing this? Like your HCP who sees 20 patients a day and drinks their Cabernet in their pajamas and finishes charting? Like who's doing this? When's the last time you guys were at the doc? I mean, they're running you through, right? Like value-based care, sure, but like most of American healthcare runs on fee-for-service still. There's value-based care metrics, but like you only make money if
They're
volume.
still churning through regardless.
Yeah.
RVUs.
So
they need their
RVUs, yeah. So who's going to do this? And then not only that, they're not getting paid for it. So that's what we've added to our list recently is we try and advocate. It comes up in December every year. The CPT from American Medical Association runs it, weirdly enough. We'll do public comments and try and get one added for like clinical trial education, something, so that like they're not going to do it if they can't bill for it.
Yeah, so like a billable code for.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so yes, I think that would be amazing. I mean, we already see that there's a whole market of like AI matching for patients and EMRs. Let's say that works great. Somebody still got to talk to those people. And somebody who they trust, and not me cold calling them and like, who the fuck are you, guy? Why are you looking at my medical records? But their doctor could do it. But to your point, they ain't being paid to do that.
They're not being paid to do it.
They don't
even
know
if
about
like
it.
Right, they still have to be screened.
Right.
And like the dirty dark truth is, if let's say I'm Dr. Anthony, right, and Brad's clinical trial clinic's down the road, so I'm going to kick my patient to you and lose income.
Oh, I've seen it. I've talked to those doctors and they've said, well, what if my patient likes it over there and they're not going to come back to my clinic anymore? And then I lost revenue which maybe I was naive to think that wouldn't be the case, but it is. You're right.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's not everybody, right? No. I don't want anybody to hear this and be like, well, if it's better for them, of course there are people out there, but like you're gonna add an extra, I don't know, let's call it 10 minutes to your day, and then you're gonna get more alerts, right? So I got asthma, burn pits in Afghanistan, so like every asthma trial, my doctor's gonna have to be like, hey Anthony, do you want to do this? Like it's just gonna be more like fatigue on their screen. I pulled numbers. I'm on this cool group in Virginia. It's the Virginia Center for Health Information. They do a study every year. And they have the Virginia Task Force on Primary Care. This is one state, right? In Virginia, primary care is 3 to 4% of total healthcare spend. And fewer people from 5 years ago get primary care. It went from 72 to 66%. So we have all these cool ideas that we're going to like embed trials in care. And that's really cool. It's a great idea, but I don't think we're like, we have a nurse shortage and like who's going to do this? Who's trained to do it? Like now a doctor has to worry about like regulatory for trials. Or you're going to send them to an FQHC who's like literally struggling to keep the money on. I'm sure they would love the trial, right, as more income. But you got to pay them. They need staff. They need time. And then if that goes away, then the money's gone. So how long are we activating this for, right? In like a federally qualified health center or a rural health center.
So yeah, and I think that's interesting conundrum. And I think, look, there are groups out there like, they're partnering to help provide that infrastructure. I mean, it's not dissimilar from what I do, working with groups and saying like, hey, let us in. We'll make you a bunch of money. Give us a little bit of time. And I think that's not a unique model right now. And then you've got the whole DCT thing, which I think sort of tried to give promise to this a little bit by saying you can include people who aren't on a 1572. You can pay them like for the services rendered. But again, this is another thing that passed, 2 years ago, or not passed, but the guidance was given 2 years ago. And I've yet to see any sponsor even breathe the words DCT like to me.
We've talked about this before, Brett. Nobody wants to even use e-consent. You can buy a house with like e-consent, right? DocuSign.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Yeah, you can do everything electronically today. But Tufts did that study, and it's the number I always refer to. 67% of e-consents or consenting is done on paper. And it's like, well, why? And it's like, well, nobody wants to accept it. So how are you going to do decentralized trials if the most, I don't want to say basic, right? But like, I would think consenting is the least process heavy part of a trial.
Yes, I think there's a bunch. There are like sites don't want to say some of the reasons why, I think, because it's the truth of the matter is like using electronic source. Let's say I'll group e-consent into electronic source as a generic, catch-all. It creates a regulatory burden's the right word, that just doesn't exist when you use paper, and it doesn't fit necessarily with the workflow that sites use. I'll be 100% honest. Sometimes when something happens and the time you're documenting it, there's a gap there. Well, guess what? Now you're time stamped on every little thing that you do when you use eSource. And frankly, that just ain't the way the world works. I might be waiting for the doctor while I'm doing some other things. It gets a little bit screwy. We're not doing anything wrong, but once someone starts digging into these timestamps that don't exist on paper, you're in trouble. And your CRA is looking for a reason to bust you. And then pretty soon the whole, benefit of eSource is out the window, because now we're digging into the minutia of every timestamp of when something happened versus when it was recorded.
Yeah, and I guess like for you, do you deal with that, or do you deal with like the idea of like 100% SDV, like source data verification, where you look like SpongeBob in his brain throwing out the manila envelopes looking for that sheet of paper? Well,
again, and the truth is everyone still does 100% SDV. And as far as I can tell, every monitor's coming on site reviewing every fucking piece of paper or electronic source document that we've generated. So,
but at least eSource, like it's 80-20 rule, right? I mean, that's like, I don't run a site, so I'm genuinely curious. Like 80% of it should be, it could be.
But it's
not.
And
the timestamp thing is a real problem though. Like that makes sense, right? Like life happens, patients happen.
But what happens is you're gonna get dinged for something relatively small. But now CRAs, love you CRAs, if you're watching, please don't come to my site and be upset. But now, this is a patient safety issue. This is a PI oversight issue. Now we got problems. Now you need a CAPA. Now you're talking to our quality team. Now your enrollment's on hold. Now your business is screwed because of some of these, relatively small things.
Paper's a problem though.
Why?
Oh man, we got 14 minutes left.
No, we got
deep conversation. Everything everybody wants to do, right? Like a paper makes that harder. You got to print it, fill it out, scan it. If there's so much steps to it. I mean, I still think it's true. Like it's easier to buy a new printer. It's cheaper than buy ink. Is that still true?
Oh yeah, so ink.
Yeah,
ink
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so everybody just buys like a new printer because they come with ink. I think for like a site that makes sense, like, hey, this is easy. This is the way we've always done it. Like it works with our workflow. That makes sense to me. I think if you're looking at speeding trials and getting it done, right? Like standardized data elements that just don't exist. I mean, the clinical trials in the life sciences is the Wild West. So the only data standards that exist is like the C disk when you submit. And that's not even it's not even a real data standard, right? It's like a translation into a submission. It's not a standard of data. Like somebody has to translate it.
Sure.
There's like the concept of interoperability doesn't exist. If I was a sponsor, I wouldn't want to use e-consent because there's probably 10 different e-consents at minimum.
Yeah.
So now how are you supposed to receive those as an IRB or a sponsor? Everybody's doing it 7 different ways. There's no standardization of what it's included, there's no even definitions, right? We can split hairs on e-source all day. Nobody's defined it. Nobody's defined e-consent.
Right.
Like we can say right, electronic consent, cool. But what does that mean? I still think I want to push the word because the Army didn't teach me how to speak no good. I want to push the word on any consent and like have the definition and pronunciation, right? Like a Kindle.
Sure.
That seems like that should just be boom, dictionary. But that's like the base problem. And I think for sites too, right? If Brad, Denali and I come to your site and we both sell e-consent, like what does that mean? So you're gonna invest in something that you may or may not be able to build to a sponsor that could just absolutely suck.
Yeah.
Or not work. Or, it's different from your CTMS. It's different. Like what a nightmare.
Yeah.
They don't talk. There's no standards. The products aren't defined. If we go back to the beginning of the conversation, like, what do I do? What does that look like? It's ideally to make technology work for the people who matter most, right? The people like in our industry, the people running the trials, the people who own the sites, the patients, right? Participant kind of undersells what they are. There's a very legal term, like,
Sure.
trial participant. Like, dude, they're a patient. They get standard of care.
At least they're not subjects anymore.
Yeah, that is better.
But
It's a little dehumanizing.
But I think it's to your point, like the making something electronic, just like making an electronic version of a paper process, that is not valuable. And I think that's where, especially in site technology, where the industry has fallen down because we've taken a paper process, whether it's consent or source, we said like, oh, well, we just put it on a computer now. Well, now it has more regulatory things and it just makes it more challenging. But to your point, like what makes it valuable is if it provides additional things like SDV, like if we could actually meaningfully impact that, which the industry is not yet today, but if we do it in a standardized way, then it becomes something that is actually valuable. It's not just recreating a digital version of a paper process. We have to do better as an industry.
But I mean, are these things wouldn't they be obvious benefits to the sponsors who are paying for all of this stuff? And if so, why hasn't there been more of an effort to actually do that from the people who hold the purse strings,
I get asked this question, especially in DC. They're like, why doesn't pharma fix this? And it's a really good question. I think one, we don't want them to. That's
Yeah.
You don't want pharma deciding what technology your sites are going to use, right? Like that's not good.
We've already had that. It doesn't work.
No.
Because they don't come together.
Two, I think it feels like it's the cost of doing business. Like it's just the status quo, right? Like this shit is hard. It takes long. It costs a fuck ton of money. And that's the way it be.
Yeah, I agree with that, yeah.
Like we can do better R&D, better development, better marketing, quicker submissions. Like the how the sausage is made in the middle is just like, well, that's how it is.
Yeah, there's no cheat code and there's no shortcuts. Like it's going to take what it takes. And it should, honestly, because this is safety and human health,
And I don't think it's nefarious, but that's why those CRAs exist, right? Like they don't want to deal with it because it's hard. Like it's tough.
Well, we don't have time to unpack that either. Because I do think CROs certainly take advantage of things in a way that benefits them financially. That's not necessary, but again, different story.
Yeah. What were you saying? No.
Well, I'm just gonna say, like, I think like one of the reasons, like, why another reason industry hasn't solved it is we look at pharma, but they don't collaborate particularly well together. they're in direct competition with each other constantly. So that would require, if we're having an industry standards, what we're talking about, we're standardizing what we're doing. That requires them to also come
like
together
SIP,
and collaborate.
like shared investigator platform.
Worked so well.
You know what somebody told me when I was a drug rep once? They were like, if they could, they would get rid of all of you in a heartbeat. You're so expensive, but nobody's going to be the first to do it because then you don't have reps in the field, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they want to pay for Super Bowl commercials for the little happy, sad blob that turns happy, right? But you kind of have to because otherwise somebody else is going to. So I think it's just it's the cost of doing business. And like they're a supply chain company at the end of the day, not to downplay the brilliant minds who like run these companies and design drugs. But if you think about it, right? Like come up with product, test product, deliver product, market, like you're selling widgets that they just save people's lives, which like we shouldn't downplay, but it's a complicated thing. And if you mess up and a bunch of people die, you're done.
You got problems.
Yeah, like it's this complicated thing. So I think, who's going to be the first mover who invests in standardizing all of this, right? Like in pharma, for what it's worth, and I guess I would too, right? I don't have to worry about this stuff in my role. Hadoofah, 340B, most favored nation pricing, like their hands are full. And they got to worry about the EMA, China, Australia. Like, are we, they're not going to invest in data standards. It works. They're not going to, so I think where they butter their bread is like, how can we protein fold faster? I'm just using words now that I read in articles, right? Protein fold sounds cool. But like develop molecules and how can we manufacture these like safer and faster and like, right, hit all the safety standards. So I just don't think there's a world where unless you require it, the industry's going to do it. ONC, like they were like, what was it? 13% of people were on electronic health records before they made, meaningful use, the HITECH Act. Now it's 98%. Did it come with problems? For sure. Is it way better? Absolutely.
Yeah. So how do we make that happen?
I rack up frequent flyer miles going to DC. We have some really cool things we're working on. Hopefully when they're a little more public, we can do this again. I can walk you guys through it if they become public, which would be a very good day for me. But we've been working with some offices and some committees on the Hill to try and get some legislation that would incentivize like the standardization of technology and the use of it and what that looks like, right? And the idea there is like rulemaking every year. Like all of us would get to comment on it because technology moves so fast, right? But trying to apply AI to the problem right now is like it's really it's cool. But you're basically what's that slap, the meme with like the leak and you just slaps the tape on it. That dude, AI everywhere. They're like, this is a problem. They're like, well, have you tried AI?
Put AI on it.
Yeah, just slap it on there. That seal tape or whatever.
Right.
But I think the CRCs everywhere, and my little sister just became a CRC, so I'm especially proud of this. Like they're living in a different world than the people who are talking about this, or sites like yourself, Brad, right? Like you see this stuff and you're like, well, that's nifty. But we can't recruit patients.
Right.
We don't know, there's the different problems it's just, again, going back to it, like the middle, right? Like we can speed up submission, which I didn't, like, it's tough. I get it. I'm sure people who do submission, like it's hard. And people who do INDs, like there's probably some belly aches they could complain about and headaches, right? And it's not that I'm not worried about them. I'm just worried about like the middle, the 10 years and $1 billion or whatever of the cost of the trial and the patient's lives. And like, that's That's to me where I think we can make the most improvement. Trials keep getting longer and more expensive, and I'll say that till I'm blue in the face.
Well, and, maybe if they get the other stuff shored up, then it exposes sooner. That's not, here's the
Look at that. We
here's the
started
big
with a
fucking lie.
sad song, and you've ended optimistic.
I mean, I'm known as hopelessly optimistic, so I'm glad we got there.
You gotta be, right? Is that what people say, Brad? Hopelessly optimistic.
I mean, I'm generally very cynical, but I mean, yes, obviously I keep doing this for a reason. So yeah.
It's important, I think like you guys and some people have seen it firsthand, right? Whether it's like a family member or running sites and seeing patients' lives, like once you have that context of like what a clinical trial can do for somebody, right? Like were you guys remember that conference we were at? I'll shut up after this. We're at UW. They did that Voices of Clinical Research. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, April. That's the first time I met
Yeah,
you.
that's the first time three of us met.
Yep.
And that I forget her name. The lady got up there. She had that tumor in her hip bone.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, say goodbye to your family and friends. You got like 2 months to live. And she joined that trial. And she said, what? She's been doing it for 3 years? And she's like, not fine, right? Like, but she talks about it. Like, I got to leave work and childcare, and this is a nightmare. But it's like a happy nightmare because I've been alive for 3 years. Yeah. And I think things like that, people just, probably not people listening to this show, I would hope. But I think outside looking in, like people forget what that means until you have a loved one diagnosed with cancer or, a rare disease.
Yeah.
It's easy to be like, why should we pay for rare diseases when it's, less than 1% of the population until that's your child or something, right? Like, so there's that. Speaking of which, the new bill just came out, guys. This is a fun one if you haven't seen it yet. It is HR House Resolution 9632, Excel Innovation for Kids with Cancer.
Nice.
Yeah. So the kids with cancer is like a good thing, hearts and minds for people to like circle the wagons around.
Rally
So
around it.
so that's good to see. We'll see. The midterms are going to be a nightmare.
No.
Yeah.
For a couple.
We're about to hit August recess here in a couple of weeks, and then so we'll see what happens. Kind of between now midterms and then the end of this Congress session, but I think there's a lot of momentum going into next year with like administration who cares about this, right? And congressmen and women and people who care about this. And there's a lot going on. So that's the good news. Take that after all the slightly negative things I said. And, we got a dog in the fight. Things are going good. And hopefully in the near future, I'll be able to come on and share some really cool news with you guys.
Yeah,
That'd
I was
be
going to
awesome.
say, it'd be great to have you back as this stuff kind of continues to unfold and we see where these things land.
I don't know. I feel like we tangentially touch on this occasionally throughout the show. Like, this thing's happening, but we're both like, it's not educated. We should have someone on who's more educated. So really glad you could come on, share some of this stuff, and then also continue to have you on as more of this develops.
Yeah, I would love to. If there's ever things you guys want to talk about, for better or for worse, this is what I do all day. Reading this stuff and understanding it, right? I don't like to talk about politics. I've told Denali this. People will always be like, oh, policy. I love policy. Like, let's talk about it. But they like politics.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if we want to make the world a better place, right, which is like the ultimate goal, right, like leave it better than you found it. I don't really care who's in office for my job's sake. I mean, I care at like the next existential dread level at any given time, any government ever, right? But I think if you got to play with the cards you're dealt. And sometimes that's, you got a royal flush, and sometimes you got like a deuce six and they're not even suited and you're in trouble, right? So it doesn't mean I can't go do my job. Like the things we've talked about for the last hour are still important regardless.
Yeah. Cool.
So
100%.
but I'll shut up now. Thanks, guys.
No, we appreciate you coming on. Where can people find you online? Reach out to you.
Oh, I guess just LinkedIn and Anthony Corso. That would be it. But yeah, please feel free to reach out, and always happy to nerd out about this stuff.
Cool.
Rock and roll. We'll be
Cool.
back next week. Do we have a guest next week, Denali?
Yes, we have Dr. Daniel Fox on is that Thursday? It's a week from today or Tuesday, one of the days. But we have Dr. Fox on.
Very good. We'll talk site payments and all that fun stuff. Anthony, thanks again, man.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Later. Thanks for listening to Note to File. We're committed to continuing to bring you independent and unfiltered coverage of the clinical trial industry.
We want to talk about what you want to hear. So if you have something on your mind, hit us up at notetofilepodcast.com.